Welcome to today's episode of the Dog Training Dogma podcast with your host, Jonathan Katz. As always, in the studio with me is Hood Rat Heather.
Hello.
Welcome, Heather. And today we have a special guest, is Justin from Rifle Supply.
Hi, how's it going?
Thank you, Justin.
Whoa, I like it. We don't have that.
Applause.
Super cool.
Justin has a large YouTube following, and, I was really honored. They have their own podcast, and I was really honored for him to offer to be on the podcast with me. It's I really love meeting new people, and when we met in California, it was really a pleasure to judge you. And I take competition very seriously. It's a lot of fun, but I take it very seriously, and I always appreciate competitors that take it seriously. And to go from, day one to close out your one, which is a tremendous accomplishment, and a lot of, we feel that sense of, we've accomplished what we set out to, and then to step on the field the next day in the twos, and then just a couple of points in the last scenario, but go through everything else. And then it was the way that you took the failure as that was really for me, you're like, this is epic, this is amazing, I'm just happy that I could be here. People told me my dog wouldn't get a PDC. Yep. Right? So as anyone goes back to the washout episode, this is one of our favorite stories. I love what is the underdog. It's a dog. It's the underdog. Right? But the dog's not really an underdog. Someone calls it an underdog.
Totally.
So in the washout episode, the question was, is the dog washout? Is the handler a washout? Or is the trainer a washout? Right. And for me, a lot of it was the trainer was a washout. So being told as not being a professional dog trainer, right?
Yep.
Just someone that's really just into dogs and into what we do, to be told that your dog can't do it, now that's your child. You love that dog.
100%.
That is, if the dog doesn't work, you're not getting rid of the dog.
Hand tattoo of him. So yeah,
that
pretty
is
obvious.
your dog. So the beginning of the washout, I was like, you're telling me to wash out my dog. That's my child.
Right.
I care about that animal. I have a lot of investment in that animal. And so when I meet handlers, and I meet a lot of handlers, and when they tell me stories, and it's the same story over and over again, I hear it all the time. And I chuckle at it, watching the dog almost smoke a level 2 routine right after just closing out their one.
And anybody that knows me knows that taking of failure is not me. So when I started, my wife was like, cool, if you're going to get into this, I think after I failed the second day in Utah to close out my one, and it was my mistake, not the dog's mistake, that affected me for weeks because he performed and I didn't. She's like, if you're going to stay into this, she wants to have a happy home life. Yes. She's like, you need to get comfortable with failure. She's like, you have to get comfortable. She's like, if you want to go where you want to go, you're going to get to the threes and fail multiple times, the twos, the ones.
Statistically.
Yeah. And I have learned, it's so funny, man, because for all that, right, I don't have years in this. I just started, first dog, first title.
First dog? First dog ever?
Well, I had a Norwegian elk hound way back in the day when I was 15. But other than that, I did not have a dog.
Your first personal dog.
100%.
Right, because that was a family dog?
Yeah.
This is your first personal. Amazing.
At 42
That's
or something.
Amazing. That's so cool.
But I just kind of treated it like a competitive athlete would. That's the way I tried to. And I went too far. That's a totally different subject as far as overtraining and things. But she said, you need to get used to failing. And when I walked out that second day, there was no pressure. I was stoked that AB said he has the skill set, go.
Yeah.
And then we went. Yeah. And
shout out to AB.
Yeah, shout out to AB. Good dude.
To have a good, not to cut you off, but to have a coach and someone to mentor you that has that mentality of the dog knows the things, go out and see where you're at.
Right.
Right? He's not afraid to try. And I also appreciate that about people. A lot of people are afraid to step on the field.
Yeah, and the failures have taught, like I said, I'm new. The failures I've had, I failed in the ones twice for a second leg, got the first leg, then failed twice. They actually taught me more than the past did by far. In Utah, I learned you can't make a correction even if it's not being judged. Not even a correction. You don't help at all, right, with that. And in Pahrump, I lost them on the field and went back to 8 months of just engagement and the dog enjoying me as a whole. And it's if I would have passed either one of those, I wouldn't be as far here doing
For
a
sure.
Road to PSA 3 seminar,
100%.
not even close. So learning to fail is new for me, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good for me.
Yeah, you know what? Like if you were saying, well, I felt like I failed the dog. The thing about it is the dog doesn't know that.
Right.
They have no clue. The dog did not sign themselves up for trial. They didn't buy themselves a scorebook. They didn't know. They're just happy to be with you and doing what you wanted him to do because that makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, obviously, he enjoys it himself, so it's a father-son bonding experience.
Yep.
But nonetheless, my father took me. We were talking about pool. My father and I played in a pool league when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
You played in a pool league? Oh, cool.
And I loved it. In the beginning I sucked, and the more I practiced, the more my brain understood the geometry. I couldn't understand geometry on paper, but the way that the ball and the English and everything it makes sense to me. And I really enjoyed it, but he could have also been into bowling, mm-hmm. and then we would have bowled. Mm-hmm. Like really whatever he told me. So I think that when we put that on ourselves of like, oh, I failed the dog, because I've had those feelings before. Totally. So I can relate. The dog doesn't know that, right?
Right.
So it helped me get through the fact of like, well, I failed my dog. That dog deserves it, right? Mm-hmm. I need to be a better handler for my animal, because the title goes on the dog. The title doesn't go at the end of my name.
Right.
It goes at the end of the dog's name.
Right.
Right. So this really all is about the dogs, and we're here for the dogs. Right. And that's why when I meet people that are really, truly here for the dogs, I always appreciate that, because they have the same mentality as me, as this is my dog and I care about this animal as part of my family.
Yeah. And that's different. I mean, everybody's going to be different from what I've seen. My path here to Texas has been very windy, very interesting. I started out with the club, got great, confidence building in him young, ended up leaving, ended up meeting Chris and Kelly Connell and going towards the IGP route. Okay. I was never going to do IGP, not my jam.
But really phenomenal training.
Incredible, like their engagement, and he learned so much from that. And then I went over to Juan Mendoza, who some people consider a GOAT in French ring, and just training overall for aggressiveness. And then AB with the e-collar work. It's just been, it's been very interesting as far as melding of these systems. Mm-hmm. And like you said on a different podcast, like the OGs are really collaborating. Mm-hmm. Like there's not a lot of gatekeeping. And that's why I was super honored that you even asked me to come here. Yeah. Yes, I built you a couple cool guns too.
Yes.
Amazing. But like it's just another tool in the toolbox when you're building, and your way of clicker and a lot of classical, mm-hmm. It appeals to me. I'm not the guy that, even my next dog, I'm hoping is going to be super strong, made for this, made for work. But that classical stuff is very appealing to me, because that relationship with that animal, it's important to me. It's not a tool. And I get it. I've never been a working dog handler and stuff like that, so I understand that there's different usages. But I don't know. I feel like that bond or relationship is extremely important, whether they're being deployed or mm-hmm. they're stepping on the trial field. I don't know if it softens up a dog. That's an argument that, we talked about a little bit before we got in here. It's like, it's kind of interesting, and I'm just learning and taking it all in. But I've been around for 45 years. I was a high school teacher. Mm-hmm. I run a pretty large company. Like, I understand emotions and empathy and things like that. And it's a living animal. I think if we can feed them the correct things, they're going to produce for us what we're looking for.
For sure.
I don't know how true that is, though.
I think it's, yes, the dog, it's like taking a family member and, putting them into the business. But they should have the same work ethic that you do. The fact that they're, you guys have to do this together and you have to get along. Right. You and the dog. Like I used to get into emotional fights with my dog, and I'm like, but I have to build a bond with this animal. Mm-hmm. I'm arguing with him. Well, he's arguing with me, and I'm arguing back. I don't need to argue with him. Right. So once I truly understood how resources are applicable mm-hmm. to controlling behaviors, a lot changed. And a lot changes. What you don't know. And then when you know it, mm-hmm. And we can't live in the past. We can't live in the future. We live in the present. So, taking all that information that was given to you by such, so many talented people, and then molding it into what you do, which is your system.
Right. And it's different. Like I've understood Kelly and Chris is a lot of engagement that there's not there. It's super anti-conflict, which I still adhere to. Like if you and I are talking, or I'm trying to teach you something, and there's conflict there. At one point, I'm going to shut down, or you're going to shut down. It doesn't matter, but there's a shutdown, right? And so that way of doing it is incredible. And then with Juan, the way he would explain it is, he's like, be clear on the difference between help and correction, because a lot of people skew that line with an e-collar or a prong collar. And he's like, this is help.
Yeah.
This is correction. Like, there's a difference. And I've watched it. Like I said, I'm brand new, I'm not a dog trainer, but I fucking went down the rabbit hole, and it's pretty much been my life for the last 3 years, you know? And it's just interesting, these different ways of doing it. Like, I look like a goofball when I train the dog. When you say have a big party, I literally look like an idiot having a party with the dog. I mean, but they're happy.
That's the most
And there's no conflict, and they're learning.
Yeah.
Like, you could make them do it, but how much is sinking in?
The only teachers I liked in school were the ones that taught me and didn't fight with me. Didn't argue with me. I don't learn the same way as other people, and the ones that were going to nurture me as a person as opposed to just lumping me into a category with everyone else. And those teachers were few and far between.
Yeah.
You know, there were some, and those were pivotal people that I'll always remember. And I can't even remember what the other teachers looked like. You know, I had learning disabilities, and I didn't learn how, everyone else learned. So, the ones that actually helped me, and that's how I feel about teaching the dog, and how I feel about teaching the person. It's one of my favorite videos is a kid. He's got long hair. He's wearing a blue shirt, and he's in his class.
Dude, I know which one you're talking about.
And I share it every so often, and he's talking to his teacher. And the background story of the kid's mother is a teacher.
He looks like a metal kid, basically.
He looks like a metal kid, like a skater kid, you know? And he said, if you want kids to learn, you got to touch their freaking hearts. You can't just give them a packet. You can't just expect them and say, well, this is my paycheck. He's like, this is the future of our nation. And this is how I feel about dog training. This is the future of our nation of dog trainers. And the reason why what I'm doing here, my intentions is to help the next generation of dog trainer be a free-thinking, low conflict, balanced dog trainers that can help every time the dog trainer that I taught them how to use clickers and food with puppies, but their mentor who learned to train dogs in the 80s said, step on their leash to lay them down. I saved hundreds of puppies from getting their face smashed into the ground by teaching a clicker and food. Right. And I feel like I'm doing, I'm fighting that good fight of showing people how we can communicate with the least amount of confrontation. Right? I think it's important, because all I had in the past, if I go back, everything was confrontation. Everything was alpha. Everything was, like pack mentality. And, it doesn't work. It's old school. We're not wolves. They're like the dogs are not wolves, and we're not like, metaphorical, but like the physical, we're humans. Right? The fact that the dog, I literally just saw an article yesterday that was ironic for this week and it was talking about how many different words of vocabulary the dog can possibly understand. Uzi had 30 commands.
Yeah, I have. That everybody comments on it, even you and AB. They're like, seriously, it's so many commands, and I'm like,
but I never. So I said it's a lot, but I never said it's too many, because if it works, it works. And I'll be honest with you. And the funny part was, Isaiah, again, being a young, virtuous dog trainer, but really in the system because he sees the success in it, and because the system is keep it simple, stupid, right? And so he's always trying to live by that mentality. And so we're talking through the idea of, because he sees so many different people, he sees so many different systems, and he understands that his mentor always says we mold to the system. We help people with their system. And today, when you came in the room and pointed and said, box, and the dog jumped up into the box, he looked at me and he goes, I have nothing to say. He goes, Justin wins.
From across the room.
You can't argue with that.
He's like, I can't argue with saying that the dog has a room command and a box command. Like, you have to almost give you credit because I couldn't do it. But the fact that you can do it is extremely impressive. And the fact that the dog understands is the impressive part. If you went boxing and he ran around the room like an idiot, we'd be like, see? Yeah. The fact that he did it, here's the thing, the dog doesn't lie.
It's fair.
The dog doesn't lie, and because the dog doesn't lie, it shows how much effort you put into your dog, and it shows the relationship and the bond you have with that dog. I can see it in a minute. I can read cards,
right.
and I see the cards, and I see that the cards are true cards. You're holding a royal flush, right?
Right.
As opposed to you're faking me out with a,
seven
with
deuce,
two of a kind, a pair, so. That's why, to me, I my greatest passion in life is to teach people and to make people better trainers. And when I get to work with people that truly love and are super passionate about what they're doing, it makes my job easier and it makes my job more enjoyable.
Way more enjoyable.
For
me, it's like I go back, and this word isn't mentioned a lot in dog training, efficacy.
Yeah.
So if I give you a medication, how much of it is going to be absorbed into your system, right? So it goes to like multiple facets that I look at. This is a molding of a bunch of them, but like how much of it is actually sinking in. If I tell that dog tunnel over and he doesn't get it, and I wing him, bring him back, seen it unfortunately, and I yank and crank them into position, get it, tunnel over, nothing. Right? Doesn't tunnel, goes around the tunnel, goes over. It's not sinking in.
Yeah.
So either teach that, or what I do a lot of is I cut the distance down while I'm teaching, and then like for those first ones going into the room, right? I'm just going to cut the distance because they understand that. Now, if they still go around it, okay, well then I got work to do.
Yeah.
But forcing them in through it, how much efficacy are you getting out of that session?
For sure.
How much are they actually absorbing out of that whole thing? And like you were saying, you keep the sessions short and sweet while you're teaching behaviors. And that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, because I understand the dog can do it. Yes. And the other thing that I learned a lot from Kelly and Chris is they do thousands of reps because there's not a lot of heavy correction, right? Which I loved, and it helped build Nakoa who he was, because uh-oh is different than no.
Yeah.
He knows the difference, right? Uh-oh is help, no is a correction. Those resets and doing multiple reps, like you put in the work, you get the results. You put in the work, you get the results. You try and push through it faster. Like you said, I train as fast as I can or as slow as I need to.
Yep.
That makes sense, but the dog's going to tell you that. Can they do it?
Yeah, the dog is truly, that barometer is actually it's only the dog. It has nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with the handler. It has to do with the dog. And sometimes it's a timeline. So for instance, as a competitor, you come here and I go, okay, when's the next time you're showing, right? And that's going to help me with information of what are we going to do in what timeline.
Right.
Okay, what is stuff that you're going to go back and you and AB are going to work on? What stuff that you're like, okay, no, we got to get this done now, right? And we use that timeline, but we don't have that timeline until the dog's trained.
Right.
The dog has to be trained first, and the dog dictates the timeline.
Right.
If I bring my puppy in the training room that I've been luring it down, and I bring the puppy out and I put the puppy on the ground and the puppy just looks at me and lays down, I'm going to click, jackpot, pick the puppy up, put the puppy away.
Because that anticipation is learning, right?
Anticipation is the... Can you please?
I can't take. That's a Juan Mendoza thing.
Do it one more time. For the people in the background, right? People are sitting in the back, and you just repeat that one more time.
Anticipation is learning.
Anticipation is the sign of learning.
Because I looked at it because I'm new, and he was anticipating outs and things like that, and he's like, "We'll fix."
Yeah.
But he's learning, he's processing what you're going to be asking for, and we end up correcting it out or moving on or doing something else when like it's cool, just teach off of that. It's interesting. One of the dogs too, I forget who it was, I think it might have been Heather's. I think he went over the jump last night and then auto-sitted. Auto sat. And it's like, okay, but like I'm not even mad at that. Even though he did it on his own.
We're actually not mad at all, because his level of impulse control is so little.
That's incredible.
That actually is incredible, because normally he would go over the jump, and when Heather says sit, he would bite.
Right.
Yeah.
So the impulse control. So now we've gone the opposite, right? You've heard me say this 800 times this week, as Missy Elliott said, we put the thing down, flip it and reverse it, is we do the opposite. And because he was so impulsive, like she's then giving the command in the air. The dog goes to go over the jump, sit, and then we taught him to like quick turn around. And so it's actually a really good thing that he is like implying those things. He's in his mind, he's implying control, which he wasn't doing before.
Right.
He's using his brain. He's
using his brain.
Yeah.
And then also with the context of obedience and context of protection, he knows he's doing obedience right there. If it was protection, he knows that he's about to go out and bite. Whereas in obedience, the chance of him getting a bite is very, very low. It is there in the threes, but it's very, very low. Most of the time it's going to be a guard or a transport or something to try to get the dog to bite or get out of control. But when he comes out for bite work, then you see him and he won't do those same things. In obedience, he's conditioned.
It's contextual for him. He sees the difference.
And I have Heather. So when he first started doing that, I had her go over and pay him for it.
The auto sit.
The first time he did it, he got paid for it because it becomes a light bulb moment. He's like, aha, I fucking figured it out. I finally figured out what mommy wants from me, and that's what gets me paid, and that's what gets me my reward. Right? Because the dog is also, to an extent, self-servant, and because we provide those resources, but the decoy is such a high resource for that animal.
And it's a certain thing too, right? Because it's like you said, that balance, because if he sees that in OB and doesn't sit and bites, it's over. If he auto sits in protection and you go push Stellan, then you're still okay, right?
-2.
Right. But it's not. You're not out.
What'd you get? You got a 37.5 points to pass that scenario, passing obedience on all 4 scenarios, earning your leg of your 3.
That's all that
no
matters.
one cares. I call it doesn't.
I had to learn that.
This is doesn't matter head sex. Like I don't care about the points when it comes to the 3s. Now, you talk to a ring trainer or Schutzen trainer, they can count points. In the 1s, I think we should, to an extent, we count points. Like, points matter, right? When you go into the 3s, it's like when Puma got her second leg of her 3, she got a 75.5 in obedience. I did not care. The fact that I was just waiting to hear whether I passed or not, because I knew I was there on the cusp. I knew it was either going to be like a 74 or a 76. And he's like, okay, 7. I'm like, okay, I think I got it, but I don't know for sure. He came back. He told me, I don't even care what the score is. Let's go to protection. Let's go. Because I know the dog's going to do it. Right. So it's the obedience. When you have really strong dogs, it's the obedience that's the struggle. Right. When you have not as strong a dogs, the obedience might be easier because the dog will be more compliant because less is desire to bite. But now we go into protection and the dog has to have that desire. The dog has to want to be in the room.
That's where I'm at. And I don't know. I think he's a late mature as far as that, but the control has never really been the issue because I over obedience young, right? First dogs, tons of mistakes. I that's all on me.
Better to over obedience than under obedience.
And then I had to put it away. Yeah, that's true. And then we did 6 months of just pure aggression. Just kill. And that's it. And then had to mold those 2 back together. But it's been an interesting path. I'm sure it's not going to be the same one with the next puppy. Different human.
Journey.
Different journey.
Different race car build. Different, different chassis. Even though it's the same, class of vehicle, it's the same breed, but different lines are going to act totally differently.
My journey will be way easier or different. I should say not easier, different. The next dog.
Each journey gets easier. My first PSA 3 was the hardest. The second was the second hardest. The third one was and then technically this one should be Cheetah, God willing, should be the easiest. Right, but we don't know that until it happens, and we don't count our cards until they're on the table. But technically, statistically, it should get easier because I have all this information handling wise, and I know how to teach the dog with less conflict, which progresses my training quicker. Because all that conflict is a step back. All that conflict is a stop, pause. Whereas with no conflict, we're just constantly moving forward.
And it's weird too, and I genetically, I like who Nakoa is. People may not like him, may like him. It is what it is. But he has this ability to go into drive and then know when it's not there. He's not 100% always on. The next dog, and I think about it, when you were talking right now, I was listening and I was thinking about so the next dog, going to have monster grips right out of the box. Don't screw it up and you'll be fine.
Because genetics.
Because genetics. And then I'm like, okay, well, what would I teach him in that interim? Because Nakoa didn't, and we spent so long trying to get his grips right, and it is what it is. But I was still doing OB. I don't know. I'm kind of this path has been the right one for me, and I think everybody's trying to. I know a lot of people, once again, new to everything, But so many people are picking up dog after dog after dog after dog after dog, like hoping for the unicorn. I'm like, it's not.
Unicorns don't exist.
The dog's strong, so you're not going to have to work on bite work. But if you're not as good in teaching OB and you think you're going to be able to pressure that dog, maybe you can't. Yeah. Then what? Now where do you go? You know,
usually
so it's
those
interesting.
I mean, from my opinion, and this is kind of a harsh opinion, but usually those trainers are also really bad at pressure. They don't have the finesse
right.
that it takes to use pressure properly. They're just like, well, now I'm going to force you to do it, as opposed to, you know, actually teaching the dog how to manifest the completion or the inexistence or the removal of that negative reinforcement, as opposed to just learning, well, I just got to turn off this pain. You know,
I've learned a lot about negative this week with you.
Negative reinforcement and negative punishment.
That's your jam.
I am obsessed. Once I understood negative reinforcement, I was obsessed with it. The past 2-3 years, maybe I would say, I am obsessed with negative punishment. How can the existence or the withholding or the lack thereof, it is so powerful. And when we write out the 4 quadrants and when you describe and you explain the 4 quadrants, negative punishment, the removal of an annoying stimulus to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. Well, about 6 months ago, I went, wait, what is the quadrant? What are we doing when we're teasing the dog with the sleeve and not giving it to them? I go, it's not positive reinforcement, because if it was positive reinforcement, we'd be giving it to them. It's not negative reinforcement because we're not annoying them, right? They don't perceive it as an annoying stimulus. It's not positive punishment because we're not giving them pain. I go, this is negative punishment. I go, so negative punishment is actually the removal of something that the dog likes to decrease or potentially increase the likelihood of a behavior, because teasing the dog with the sleeve is actually to build and increase drive. And then let's say the dog doesn't show us the desire we're looking for. We're going to withhold the sleeve, put the dog up high. And the next time the dog come out, the dog will have more desire, as opposed to going, no, you were supposed to bite that. I'm never going to do that with something that I want the dog to enjoy.
Or pushing through the session, which is the mistake I've made, because I know that my dog works really well off of, if I take him out or he loses that slip because he didn't grip down hard enough and I drag him to the car, I know this next time it will be better. Exactly. I've made the mistake of going, okay, well, I just drove an hour and a half to training. I'm just going to work through this. And that's the part that I've been learning over the last, because so you can take it and turn it into a positive, or if it's done wrong, like everything, right? Then there's no point to it.
Yeah. But the positive is that we learn from our mistakes. Right? We take the negative and turn it into a positive of these are our failures, right? If you just went out and you just smoked the first routine and you smoked the second one and the third one, like, you would have never gotten, as you said it, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Right. I wouldn't actually be here.
Yeah.
Because who knows? I might not even have showed him Martinez and met Jeff, and then we hit it off, and and everything like that. So shout out to Jeff. He's been awesome.
Shout out to Jeff. Jeff's my brother.
He's awesome.
Just my brother from another mother. I lived with Jeff for 6 months. When I left Chicago, I was in a really bad mental state, and really mentally and physically unhealthy. And I lost about 50 pounds before I went to Jeff's house, just from stopping to eat crap. Oh. And then Jeff and I was a chef before, so I became Jeff's personal chef, and I meal prepped us. And we went to the gym 5 days, 6 days a week, and I lost another 60 pounds. It was of my life, it was definitely one of the healthiest I've been. To come out of an unhealthy situation, and then you're like, okay, now I feel good, right? It's really so.
Are you still doing it?
Yeah, for sure. Life is hard. Life is hard. But, ironically, when Jeff and I had met at a decoy camp in 2007, we were both going for cert. Jeff certed. I didn't get halfway through the first day. I messed up my back really bad, and I tried to go through with a back brace, and Sean Siggins had to pick me up like a baby, right? So, I didn't make it through halfway through the first day. And so that's failure, right? And I practiced for that a lot. I didn't practice. I made a mistake. I didn't do any cardio. I just worked dogs. Stupid. Okay. So stupid. Don't do that. Work cardio. Cardio is really important. Interval cardio for PSA. Run, stop, right? So, and we had a mutual friend. Ironically, neither of us are really friends with that person anymore. And now Jeff and I are extremely close. Jeff was coming to work. I saw him post on Facebook that he was coming to work one of the 9/11 memorials in the city. He was working a contract handling his bomb dog.
Was that right after it happened? I was there like 3 weeks after or 4 weeks after.
This was 2009 or 2010.
Oh, okay.
I want to say.
Okay.
So this was a little later on. He was
around
in.
there. Oh,
yep.
The contract.
And so I had seen that he's going, and I messaged him. I'm like, dude, I live in Jersey. I live in Fort Lee, like literally right over the George Washington Bridge. You have to come over, like from Massachusetts. You got to come through here to come into the city. I'm like, dude, come and say hi. And so when he came through, I asked him, I'm like, you're going to do explosive detection. I go, they give you a vest when you get there? And he goes, no, I don't have one. And I go, do you have one? They're going to give you one? No. And I said, dude, take my vest. I already had all my kit already sitting there from before. So I lent it. He's like, seriously, you're going to lend me your, however much a vest costs with front and black plates, back plates, So, and I was like, of course, man. I'm like, I want you to be safe. We just became friends recently, but nonetheless, like, I still care about you. And so from there, that's where the relationship started. And,
it's funny how they start. It could just be one thing or certain things. Like I met AB because I gave away a gun to the raffle of the club that I was at the time. And then he randomly won it. And we started talking. Then I was driving from Orange County to San Jose to go train for 2 days, then driving back down. It's random. It's cool. That's what I love about this.
It's meant to be.
It was. And it's like I was listening to a podcast, a conspiracy theory podcast on the way out here. And he was saying something about he mentioned, it's funny how many friends we can make in our 40s. Because you usually think you're friends, right? But I'm in my mid 40s and I'm making all these new friends and connections, and it's allowing me to travel the country. Yeah. And it's just awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm super stoked.
Yeah. And that was, again, it's always a pleasure when I meet people that have the same level of passion. Or it's different because everyone's passion is different, but such a tremendous passion. When I meet people that have passion for what I do, it makes me happy, right? Because, I see, like I said on one, I meet people at trials, and like I meet these people that are like, I literally live, like I live for this. And this is like, all I'm thinking about is, people will tell me I'm making money so I can go to my next trial, right? Young, aspiring dog trainers. And I'm just like, that's what I was like when I started. Yeah. And it makes me so happy to see people have such a passion, especially people that are amateur dog trainers or hobbyists. This is literally just their golf. Yep. My golf, but I'm also a golf instructor, right?
AB is like the same way. Yeah. He's like, I need to be having fun doing this too. Like this is the outlet when I get to work my dogs. It's why club has to be fun. Right. It's
why not every club works with everyone, because it's about a group vibing, and they have to be able to train together, get along, be selfless with each other. Do what is needed for the good of the club, donate when is needed, donation of time, of services, of I always make a collar when I do, like I'm going to the Montana trial, and I made this like Montana collar. I'm constantly in Martinez, I don't sell guns. I wish I did. Right. But, I made that Gucci Adidas collar.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just like my thank you it's the same thing. You have such a love and passion for what that trial is, and you know how much that it took to go into that.
Right.
You're like, if I can donate and help out, it's the love of what you do, giving back to making the sport the ability.
In the way that I can. Yeah. Not everybody, I can't go out there and decoy. I'm not a 20-year dog trainer that, I'm not going to steward. Hopefully this year I can start stewarding. I'd love to steward a PDC or something like that. I'm coming to Utah with Rob.
Okay. I don't know, because sometimes with the club decides it. If no one doesn't, I want you to come up and be like, hey, Jonathan, can I steward? And I would say, yes, please.
I would love to do the PDCs. Like, that's like...
that's cool.
That makes me happy. It freaks me out already.
Did you see my post in the PSA group that I put up a few weeks ago? It was last weekend. 2 weekends ago. And I put up a post about how one of the life hack is you want to learn about PSA.
Go steward.
Offer to steward. Because you're now standing next to the judge. You're hearing where the points go. You're hearing why they lost points. Especially if I'm teaching an apprentice judge, you'll hear everything that I'm teaching them. Yeah. And especially for the upper levels, you get to see where's the life hack, where's this, where's that, So I just I appreciate it. I'm always so incredibly honored when people travel long distances, but driving 20 hours each way, I just wanted to say I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you did for Heather and I, of how much you put in your care and love into something that we enjoy.
Totally.
You know, I'll be honest with you. It is that the gun that you made for me, in my opinion, is the most beautiful gun I've ever seen.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
and
same.
It's awesome. I'm glad you guys love them.
The fact that you like, we just talked about it, but I'm all about artists. Let the artists do their job.
Yeah.
And it literally looks exactly how I thought it was going to look.
Right.
Like, that's always so cool. And so, you know, I just want to think it's going to be something that I will cherish and I will carry with me for the rest of my life.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
you shot it well.
that.
So,
And I also appreciate the instruction. I have a little bit of experience, but when I'm dealing with a professional, I am always like, I am a student.
I love teaching too. I was a high school teacher.
And you're a phenomenal teacher,
I love it.
and I appreciate that. Even that half an hour, those little pieces of advice that you gave me, it really made a big difference, and I really like it. You know, it's I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
You.
I'm glad you shot yours incredibly well.
Thank
too.
you.
So that was
It was
rad. Yeah, it was rad. I couldn't help but think while you were talking that whole time. We had talked about a subject a little bit. Did you do one on? You just did one on sport dogs versus PPD dogs, huh?
Yeah, that's coming out. That's with Marquise. That should be out in a couple.
What
of weeks.
was the consensus that a high level? And AB may kill me, but he also he believes that a high level sport dog, a 3, a high level dog, will bite civilly.
Well, the dog has to do unsuited muzzle work. If the dog will go in, if I put someone in no suit, civilian standing there, and I send my dog on them, and they will come in, and they will hit
and keep hitting
and keep engaging, that is to me a dog that will bite for real.
Right. It's only so this is for my knowledge too. So if a dog comes in and gets flesh, it's going to be a different sensation for them.
For sure.
Is that times when a dog would pop off?
So I have seen dogs on their first
like,
live bite, they will let go. Usually you just encourage them and they bite back down and they're like, oh, okay, this is really a lot of fun. It's just a weird sensation. It's like if you're eating a new food that you've never had before and you're like, this is a weird mouth. It's a weird mouth feel. And then other dogs, they bite down and they go, wait. And then they, you know, and then I've seen other dogs that bite down and go, nope, that's not linen. That's not jute.
Interesting.
That does happen.
I've done, see that the whole PPD thing is not really my thing. And I know it was something maybe you wanted to touch on. Because I'm a gun guy and I carry a gun. My wife has her concealed weapon license. I have mine. I traveled here and they're like, what did you bring? And I was like, I brought everything. I have plates and I brought why? I'm not going to drive 20 hours and be able to get back. We've done NACOA twice as far as on an actual worn fake arm, right, with agitation. And, you know, whoever did it with me, they were like, hey, do you want to try something different? I was like, yeah. And I was like, I think he will. Bam, twice, went right to it. Now, it's not the sensation, right,
but it's similar.
of it.
It's the closest you're going to get.
He was wearing it. It's right there. He had marks from it. And so I was like, okay, cool, I'm done. Like, my dog lives my dog lives a different life. And for me, there's so many feuds going on the internet. There's so many different things. Like, I'm going to shoot somebody before I send my dog. And you touched on it in the other podcast. Like, I've talked to handlers that I know, active handlers that are like, I'm not sending my dog into an unknown room. I mean, you're going to send them on a search, right? But if there's a suspect in there that is armed, generally that's not something that you do.
Now, at that point, you know, if we're talking about that dangerous, the SWAT team has to come, and the SWAT team, if they do or don't have a dog, the dog's a location tool. The dog is to save an officer's life. Like, it's lives going home. As a civilian that also trains police dogs, which it's kind of hard to break into that community because you don't know how it feels. Right. Now, I did handle a dog on deployment, so I can tell you what it's like to deploy with a dog. Now, but I've never been a police officer, and I would never claim to be. But the main thing is I want you to go home to your family. I want you to go home to your wife and your kids. And so it's really important that we use the dog where we need to save human life, right? Now, everything tactically is going to be, when it comes to my personal protection dog,
that's more of what
is going to be situational dependent. Now, if someone comes through I'm a sound sleeper. So if someone comes through the door, it will take, you know, the under 10 seconds for the dogs to get up, go explain, tell me what's going on, and then the gun is behind them. But I'm always going to use the dog, because here's the other thing. The people hear the dogs. You come by a house, you hear dogs barking. I'm just going to pick a different house. Right? it's
it's like a shotgun, racking a shotgun inside a house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that now there's always the gun right behind it, and then depending on the situation, the dogs then go away and just the guns come out. But it's hard to say a blanket statement of what. But to me, the dogs, when I worked on deployment with Uzi, I went to work every single day going, if I die, I saved people's lives. If Uzi dies, he saved people's lives. If we die together, we could just we get to rest in peace together. But we did our job, and I felt the solitude and I was okay. Whoever, take me now if that's when it's supposed to be, because I was saving people's lives.
Right.
Right. And that's really what mattered. It's sad to say, but the dog can never be replaced. But you can get another dog. I can't ever get you can't ever get another Jonathan. You can't get another Justin. No one can ever have another Heather. So even though the dog can't be replaced, but obviously when the police are scared, they send the dog in the building.
That's
right?
true, but that's not the PPD situation,
For sure.
right?
We don't deploy.
It's the heavy testing of these dogs. Do the dogs need to be tested? To what level do they need to be tested?
I think a lot of them are over tested to the point where they break and then the dog's shit.
Like, for me, my dog is not a measurement for my penis.
For sure, 100%, yes.
Like, that's not it. I carry a gun. If you want to get into that, that's it.
But it's also not you don't carry a Desert Eagle.
That's true.
Right?
Right.
If you had a really small penis, you might carry a Desert Eagle.
It's fair.
Okay?
It's fair, right? But like I don't think it's wrong, and I don't judge anybody. It's just not my personal thing. Like, I'll push Nakoa as hard as we need to push him for this. And I mean, fuck, in that room of doom, that's a hard fucking push.
Yeah.
Like, that is a lot of pushing for that dog. But I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of feuds going on, and I know people, and it's like, I don't know, just do your thing.
Yeah.
And let other people do their thing. As long as the dog's not being abused. I'm more sensitive because I really, really love animals.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really love them. Like, Man, I read stories on the Instagram and cry weekly. You know what I'm saying?
It bothers me that Instagram Reels allows animal cruelty things on there,
right?
Whereas like TikTok doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't.
No,
that shit pisses me off.
That really bothers me. I have to scroll through it. I can't see it, and I'll just check out and I'll turn the internet off. Well, they'll just give me like injured dogs, and I'm like, I can't see that.
Did you see the one? It was a long time ago, 3 years ago. It was I don't know what race he was, but he brought this dog out and hit him against the ground and tossed him in the front yard, right? And it was in Arizona. I remember I texted, this is when I was training with Dustin Wynn. I was like, yo, you want to take a trip to Arizona? Because I'm more likely to kill somebody over an animal than I am a person, to be totally honest with you, because they're not there to defend themselves. So it's very interesting. So when I get into the ego part of the dog training thing, it's just not my jam.
Yeah.
Like it's cool, but it's just, I think the dog will still bite. But
I agree with you.
Maybe people will bash me for that.
Hey, and that's your opinion, and you're allowed to have it. I think a lot of dogs are over-tested, and that's my opinion. Right? Like, you have to train, and you train tactics, but we don't over-test. Right? We do in training the idea, the mentality of like live fire drills, but are you going to do that every single day when you train? Not every single session is going to be live fire. So it ends up happening, and that dog is fire. That dog's fire. Yo, where'd he go? He sucked. But he was fire until he sucked, right? What the dog looks confused. He doesn't look like he's fire. He looks like he's confused. He doesn't know what to do. He finally eventually bit in the room, but like, meaning the video of like the dog bit.
Yeah.
But
it was contextual. Like, I watched it.
He looked confused to me.
He did, and it's because he was a bicep dog that was getting his head put down, and he didn't take a leg.
Has he ever been taught secondary or tertiary?
I don't know that. But
probably not.
The second time I watched it after I had read that he was a bicep dog, I was like, oh, well, he kept trying to lift his head up.
Yeah, you don't understand.
And his head's getting pushed down with the thing.
But instead of testing him, they didn't teach him, right?
I don't know.
I don't know what the context of the video was. I just saw the video, and but the dog didn't run out of the room. If the dog was afraid, he would have run out of the room.
100%.
He had the option to leave the room. He didn't. And I would say, I don't know the dog. I would say that dog has heart.
Right.
Because he still kind of fought through until eventually he won. He just didn't understand. He looked confused to me.
Yeah, I feel like he would have taken that ankle that was right there.
Yeah.
But
I teach dogs to take the ankle.
It's just weird. It's like people that say semi-automatic, full automatic gun, and they don't know anything about guns, but then they're commenting on it. I'm not going to get anybody's face on this, but like if it's not your jam, like just sometimes just stay in your lane a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, not trying to bring too much of that bullshit drama here, but
for sure,
it's just very interesting.
We're again, I think it's important where everyone has different opinions, and I think what's important about why I do this podcast is because people need to hear opinions. And I think they need to hear multiple opinions from different people. And I bring people in the studio of people that I respect, and whether we have the same opinion or not, I respect you, so I want your opinion. Right? And I think that's fair, and I think that everyone should be able to give their opinion. You know, some things we agree on, some things we disagree on, and I think that's part of life. And I think it's important that we can agree to disagree and be able to have these healthy debates on more controversial topics, because they're healthy. They're debates. They're not arguments. Right. As you said before, like they're debates, and I think it's important for people to listen to it. And if they don't want to listen, they can sign off, right?
But it'd be good for them to listen.
I think it's good for people to listen, hear the opinion, even if you don't agree with it, listen to it, and then go, you know what? I don't agree with it, but at least I listened to it. To go, well, I'm not going to even hear that, to not even be able to formulate an opinion because you already have a preconceived notion on what we're talking about or what the case may be.
I think it's because they don't have the confidence. So I'm going to like a societal view on this, right? Like this should be something, people are such babies that they won't even have the debate. Maybe it's because you don't have the confidence. Like if we get into the debate, I want to take in all of your information so that I understand how I can rebut that information. But people aren't even doing it. Look at Jordan Peterson and what he goes through up north and all that stuff. If you're saying anything that's oppositional, it's so weird. Do you know about Jordan Peterson?
I know.
Totally not on dogs.
I really don't. So as a libertarian, I don't really watch the news.
He's not right or left. He's a college professor.
Oh, okay.
And look up Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
But like I watched a lot about him. I've read his book and stuff like that, and it's just very interesting because he's up there arguing, and the trans and that whole community hate him, but he actually has nothing against any of them.
Yeah.
He's arguing against the he, she, all of that, the pronouns.
Right.
But he's only arguing it in the way of Canada is making it law that it has to be done. And what he's saying is, guys, what you're not understanding is that that's a very slippery slope.
Right.
If they can tell you how you have to talk, then what right do they take next?
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because they go to the debates and everybody is just up in arms. Nobody wants to listen. And Charlie Kirk, same thing. Like, just have the conversation. It's cool if we don't agree. Like, it's cool. Like, and that's the thing that's different about me and our gun store and stuff like that is like, we are accepting of everybody.
Yeah.
I don't care who you have sex with or what parts you have. You're welcome here if you're for the Second Amendment. And that's different than a lot of other stores because they're super judgy. I've actually gotten arguments with people at gun shows, with other stores about a client that they were commenting on that just went there to buy something.
Yeah.
And it's a customer of ours, and she served in the Marine Corps two tours of battle, and she works at the VA, still giving back. She doesn't look perfect, right? But they were talking shit, and I just couldn't walk by. I just couldn't walk by it, and I laid into these dude, a vet who was a male before, now is a female, right? But it doesn't matter.
Whatever makes people happy.
Totally.
I think people should do whatever makes them happy.
Yeah.
I think if you're mean to the people that served our country, if you deny someone that's trying to do PSA with their dog and you tell them because they are injured veteran, you are a fucking asshole, and you need to reevaluate how you perceive yourself in this industry, because like this is really sad to me. This makes me really upset, and I'm going to go above and beyond. And I did his first lesson for free to give back. It was the day after Memorial Day, and I did it for free because you made me cry of the fact that you were mean to a veteran. You told a veteran that they could not do it. You didn't even meet them. He didn't even meet him. He didn't even fucking meet him. He just told him over the phone, oh, the guy is 100% capable. 100% capable. We find the capabilities. Everyone, we adjust, we adapt. but to not even meet him, that's horrible. So I'm also very opinionated, and this is why we do this. Yeah. And so, I think it's important. I think it's important that everyone has opinions and that everyone gets to be able to listen to other people's opinions. You said some people just don't listen, and that's their own. That's their own right. They can do that on their own. But I think the healthy community of being able to debate and have different opinions, I think, is super important. Yeah. So, on that note, Justin, I really wanted to thank you for being
Absolutely.
here.
I had a great time.
I really appreciate this. I really appreciate, as I said, you driving all this way and coming and sitting in the studio with us. And I really want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me out here. It was awesome building the guns. The week has been rad, and we still have another day, so I'm super excited.
Tomorrow's muzzle work.
Let's do it.
I love it.
Let's do it. Yeah, remote muzzle. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.